Welcome back, Fantasy Fiction Fanatics. It's great to see you again, and I hope you're doing well. Today's class, we are going to be returning to Raine Benares in Magic Lost, Trouble Found, chapters 12 through 18. And I'm excited to talk about these chapters because I actually have a very big recap. When I was typing up my notes, it almost takes a whole page to bullet point just the main things that happen in this section of chapters, because we do have quite a few important things. That doesn't mean that the overall discussion that we're going to have is going to be overflowing or anything like that, because I feel like a lot of it kind of works together, but there are a lot of main important things that had to be touched on in order to make a successful recap. So let's go ahead and just jump right in, get right to it, and hopefully we can breeze through this recap so we can actually get to talking about actually what's going on in these chapters. So we left off kind of on a cliffhanger, kind of on something already happening, with Raine and Piaris escaping Prince Chigaru, and they are on the verge of being recaptured. They are hiding and they are hoping not to be found. And before they are found, Sarad Nukbana and King Sathric end up showing up and kind of duking it out with the prince a little bit verbally. And while they're distracted, Raine and Piaris try and run for cover and try and get away. Unfortunately for them, they are then attacked by these shadow blobs called Magsedu, I think. I don't know. It's a pretty interesting spelling of that word. But I think it's Magsedu, or at least that's how I say it. And they entrap them. Piaris tries to spell sing them away, and when that doesn't work, Raine ends up tapping into that Sigarad power and just blasting them into blowing up. So overpowers them, blows them up, and that basically just sets off a bomb of everybody knows now where she's at. So Sarad Nukbana shows up and tries to detain them again when Mycheal Elisir finally shows up again, tracking her down, and decides, hey, you go escape. I'm going to go ahead and distract Sarad so that way he will not get you. So they end up making their way out of the ruins and running like heck. After they make it out of the ruins, they are met by Garradin, and all together they end up going to Phelan's ship. They take cover on Phelan's ship and end up talking to Phelan, end up talking to Garradin about what happened during that night, the information that they learned, kind of having a group meeting and deciding what their next steps are based on what just happened and the danger that they have been put in. So Raine goes to sleep and magically somehow ends up connecting to Mycheal, and they end up having a discussion. They end up trading kind of information about the Sigarad, about what's going on, and Raine decides that she is going to try and work with him because she believes that he can help her without wanting to kill her, which is her best option at this point. She makes it back to her body, and they had set up a meeting point to meet at Tam's nightclub, Sirens. So later that day, her and some of Phelan's people meet them, and they kind of have a big discussion, the three of them. So first, she's not happy, of course, and is not really in the mood, but they do end up having a civil discussion, end up again kind of trading more information with Tam because Tam had information that they didn't previously know, and they all kind of get on the same page. From there, Mycheal helps Phelan and Raine detain Ocnus, who Ocnus was, if you remember from the previous chapter, the one that sent that message to Raine in order to trap her for Chigaru, and they have determined that he must know where the Sigarad is. So they trap him, and Raine and Phelan try to interrogate him. But he's not really talking, so instead they package him up and deliver him to Tam, and let Tam intimidate him into talking and letting them know where the Sigarad is. They also let them know that Sarad is going after Piaris. So they rush over to Piaris' place just in time for a gate to be ripped open to try and take him. Instead, they end up taking Piaras's grandmother, and Piaras closes the gate before anybody else can be taken. Of course, after Raine tries to blast Sarad through the gate. So they get it closed, but now Piaras is antsy because he wants to save his grandmother, and everyone's trying to figure out what the best plan is, the best way to move forward, when they get a note from Sarad that says that he wants to set up this meeting in order to exchange the Sigarid for Piaras' grandmother, and Piaras must be at that meeting. So we kind of went from one dangerous moment that was a little bit of a cliffhanger to another dangerous moment that's not quite a cliffhanger, but still an intriguing moment. There's so many times in this story where it's like hard to stop and hard to put it down because we're just constantly in the middle of something that's important or that's going on. She's going from one danger to the next. So please let me know what you think of the story so far, about what's happening. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your opinions, your likes, your dislikes, anything you want to say about the characters. I'd just be super interested to hear your thoughts and your feelings about them. So the first thing I want to talk about for this section is the world building that we have in this section. We're still in book 1, and this is a bit of a faster paced book in the fact that we're not taking a bunch of time like building up to something and like going on like this huge journey and things like that come with more like a Dragonlance type story, or when we did cover the Belgariad, we do the progression a little bit slower so the world building has time later to continue to develop. So for this one, with it being faster paced, with us having like a more intense story that's right in the middle of things or running around a lot, world building is happening, from page 1 to right now. Like we are continually having to build this world as the story is revolving around it at this faster pace. So within these set of chapters, we already got quite a few things that we've learned about this world and things that can exist in this world. And we're continuing to see a bigger picture of where we're at and what can be possible here. First thing is we've gotten a lot of history about the Sigarid. We know that, there was a guardian, that Mycheal, I think is how you say, supposedly Raine's father, his name Mycheal, was supposedly its guardian for 900 years, which means that there is the possibility of being magically enhanced to live for 900 years. You've got the fact that we've got this history of this rock that sucks in people's souls, that has a special box that can contain it. We've got that it has the beacon and how beacons work, and the fact that they connect you to the magical item while being distanced. But then, especially for this beacon, is you have to touch that beacon to the rock or to the item in order to let it release you. Also, this beacon is different in the fact that it is personally keyed to one person, and without that particular person or a very close blood relative wielding it, it is not going to function properly for them. So we've got these different ideas of how magical items exist, what can be done with them. We've got a lot more information about how these magical items can affect people, especially this one in particular. Obviously, it's a very big artifact, but it's examples of things that can happen in this world for other magical artifacts. So if we come across another magical item in this book or in this series, we know the possible ramifications of being involved with that item and how it might work in the future. We know that hobgoblins are a thing. We have mention of hobgoblins. We've kind of seen a little bit with them. Hobgoblins, though, obviously we have goblins in this story. It's not really a stretch to say that we have hobgoblins, but different stories might have different variations of what exact kind of creatures they have. They might have goblins without hobgoblins, or, similar type beings like orcs or trolls or other things like that that might be in a similar genre. So it is nice to know that we have mentioned this little subgroup of goblins, and making sure that us as the readers know that this world does have this distinction between goblins and hobgoblins. And then, of course, we have the shadows that we looked at, or almost had Raine and Benares killed by, the Magsadoo, that absorb people's magic, and, or, depending on the situation, they suck out your life force. And they bottle it up inside them, which can then be extracted by the person who created it and used that essence in order to work powerful, bad magic. And we know that the main person who's creating them and using them are the goblin shamans, specifically Sard Nukpana. And we know that he even used the power that these are building to create his new gate. Obviously not the ones that Raine had a run-in with, because she kind of blew them up, but he probably has others or can create more. It is highly unlikely that that's going to be the end of seeing them. But we can see that magic can create something so terrible that almost the magic user can't, control it. But then they can suck out that energy and use that energy in order to do other magic more terrible than creating the Magsadoo in the first place. It also explains what happened to the previous owner that she did that seeking for, where that shadow just munched on him and she didn't understand what happened. So now she understands more about what's possible in her own world to explain things that happened previously or might happen in the future. So we know to really watch out for those. Really don't want to be around them at all. We also got a glimpse at this moment is that for magic, it's not like, not that I want to say it's like visible, but similar to the Belgariad, certain kind of magic, like powerful magic that Raine did to blow up those Magsadoo, do kind of give off some kind of vibe, light, sense, something that other people can pick up on. And everybody basically knew that she had worked extremely powerful magic and set them off right there in the ruins and can pinpoint her exactly based on that. So regular magic, we haven't really heard of like people sensing it, hearing it, knowing about it. But powerful magic, if it gets to be enough power being blasted around, it can cause a way for people to find you and to sense you and to know what you're doing, because it's so powerful it becomes physical in some sense. So those are the main things that I really picked up on the world building for this selection of chapters. We've continued to build, continued to draw upon what we knew from the previous chapters, continuing to draw on in the future, new things and discovering stuff. So we are not at the end of discovering what this world has in store and what kind of things are possible. And we're continuing to see us building, and hopefully we will be able to talk some more in the next couple chapters or in the chapters beyond that about even more that we've learned. So let me know what you think of this world so far. Do you find it interesting? Do you like the kind of magical system that is in place? I find that a lot of the magic in this one is super interesting, especially the spell singing. I really like that concept. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about this world and what we are continuing to learn about it. Next, I want to talk about Mycheal, because Mycheal is now a full-blown character in this story. We've seen him one time, quick. We've had some mentions of him trying to get to Raine, not, in person. We've had these kind of sneaky he's done, but he hasn't actually fully come into the story until now. Of course, we've had Tam, who's a little bit of a character that is broadening himself as well, but I don't feel like we've had enough from him to feel like we have a sense of who this character is. But Mycheal has really made an impression in this set of chapters. He's really come through, and he's really changed into being a full character that's really interacting with Raine and really coming together for this event. And it's going to be, you can tell he's going to be with us through at least the rest of the story, if not longer. So, The first impression that we get in this set of chapters is when he finds Raine in the ruins, and Sard Nukpana is there, trying to capture her and Benares, and we get the immediate knowledge that he is an extremely, extremely powerful spell singer, and so powerful even that Sard Nukpana is a little scared when Mycheal is facing off to him. It has that little moment where he has that little bit of fear in his eyes, and he's not sure he's gonna make it out of this because Mycheal is extremely, extremely powerful. So that is super, super interesting that he comes in and he is just this force to be reckoned with, and he is on the side of just letting Raine escape, even though he wants to talk to her and he wants to have a bit of the Raine action. Instead of caring about that, he just says, I'm gonna face off Sard, you go, you're better alive and not around me and not, me getting my answers than me making you stay and possibly getting killed by Sard. So he is super awesome first main impression, based on actually, getting a chance to do something and have some lines with her. And he's very calm and respectful man. That's something that comes off right away. Super right away. So perfect, really powerful, really respectful, and nice. He could, again, try and capture her. He could make her stay. He could make things more complicated. Instead, he's like, go, I will find you another time. I can be patient. Right now, your safety is more important than me getting my answers. And lets her go. He also is very kind and respectful when she comes into his room, magically speaking, and has the whole conversation with him. He's, of course, trying to get some answers and trying to, do his job. But he's very respectful to her. He listens to her. He doesn't, berate her. He doesn't tell her that she's a liar. He doesn't demand anything from her. He just listens. He shares his information. He takes the information that she gives him in and is trying to respectfully convince her to work with him because he does want to make this relationship work in the scheme of getting the Sigarid safe and secure. So throughout the whole process, he's very respectful, very much a calm guy. He doesn't seem like he's going to break under pressure very easily, if at all, ever. I really like his first impression just in general of how his character comes across when he's interacting with Raine. I am a little biased in the fact that, yes, he is one of my top characters, I know. I really like Mycheal a whole lot, but I feel like I still took the time to really see what happened with him in these chapters so I could give an accurate depiction to you guys and really talk about him in an accurate way. I do also like that he's quite blunt, honestly. He can be very blunt, very to the point when he's trying to make a point. Especially, when he's talking with Tam and trying to talk about, Benares and his grandmother and stuff like that. He has the balance between being respectful and being what you need to know is what you need to know, and I'm not going to tell you anything else. But then there's also times where he's just very blunt and is like, hey, this is how it is, and if you want to make it out of here alive, or if you want to get things done, this is how it's got to be, or this is the reality of things. So he can bar no holds and just cut you like a knife with his words if he wants to, and when the moment is necessary. But then he also has that calm, respectful side. So it's very much a balance for him between the two, and I like that a lot. I like that there's a time to be strong and to be upfront, and the time to just see how things go and understand that not everything's in your control. So, I also think it's very interesting that he has not yet taken over Raine's life. And Raine even admits, he could instantly be like, I'm locking you in a cell, I'm throwing away the key, you are going to be on lockdown with this beacon until I get the Sigarid back and can have everything under control and can protect you from, locking you into a safe space surrounded by guardians. Or even giving her an entourage where, like, okay, you're not locked up, but you're going to have 50 people on your left and right escorting you everywhere you want to go. But he doesn't do that. He doesn't lock her up. He doesn't exclude her from conversations of like what's best for her. He lets her make decisions. He lets her in with her opinion. He lets her do her opinions or her preferred methods of things, even acting on her own. I mean, obviously, Raine and Phelan are the two that originally talked to Ocnus, even though he and his men are there. But he is very respectful in that part and trying to really work with Raine. He is not someone who's just going to come in and dictate her everything and, do things his way. He is very open to meshing his style, to doing what's best for both parties. So at the beginning, we can already see the difference between his methods and Chigaro's or Satheric's or Sarid's. Now, of course, the picture that we've painted of all the goblins in this story so far has been not so great, other than Tam. But still, we can really see that he is working to be good for Raine and to just be protective and to be helpful versus just trying to take what he wants and have it the way he wants it. So we already see all these good qualities coming through in these chapters as he's just first initially interacting with Raine and trying to figure out the mess that is happening right now and to do his job. I mean, obviously it's his job as the paladin of the Guardians to retrieve this and make sure it's not in dangerous hands, to protect it, to save people from having their soul eaten by a rock, including Raine and the fact that she's attached to it and everybody is after it. So really, really like that. I really like that he is open and he's more about the protective process than he is about the give me what I want now. So we can really see the picture of him being a good person to ally with versus the goblins so far. He also seems very strong and very tactful. So obviously he is strong spell-sing wise, but also seems like he's strong physically, strong as in fighting. He's very tactical. He can figure out, okay, this is what we've got to do. So he's very smart. He understands like, okay, this is this kind of person, so we got to play it this way. And oh, this is what's going on this way. Even he's a little bit tactful in dealing with Raine and knowing that she's not the person that can be locked up and that that's not going to work for her. And it's just going to cause him more problems than solve them. So he knows that he's got to try and take it and meet her halfway and try and do what's best in the situation until it becomes necessary to take those more further actions. And I also like the beginning of this interaction that we have with Raine versus Mycheal, where they have a lot of this flirting going on. Of course, he is described as being very good looking to Raine, and we know that she has that kind of interest in Tam, but now we're seeing this interest with Mycheal and seeing where that's going to go and what kind of relationship they're going to have coming up. So possibly could be an issue with the Tam thing versus the Mycheal thing, or it could not be. Right now, we're just getting to know Mycheal, and Raine already previously knew Tam. So it's just building this fresh little relationship where you see that little bit of flirting and that little bit of cheekiness, but a lot of it is still she's, in danger for her life, and she's just meeting this paladin because he's there to deal with what she's already dealing with. So let me know what you think of Mycheal. What is your first impressions of him? Do you like him? I feel like so far he is more of an impressionable, more in the story character than Tam has been. Though eventually we will go ahead and talk about Tam, since obviously he does have a role to play, at least in this first novel, if not more to come. So again, let me know what you think of Mycheal and his first impression. I'd really love to hear. Again, I know I'm a little biased in the fact that I really, really like Mycheal a lot. He's one of my favorite characters. So I'd like to see if you have some interesting or different takes than I have on him. Now, last but not least, I'd like to talk about the raising stakes that are in this set of chapters. So again, we have quite a few things going on in this set of chapters. A lot of excitement, a lot of really digging into some adventure, some danger, some information planning, that kind of stuff. So we've got a lot of different stages and a lot of different things going on for our characters, for our events, for things progressing forward with the plot. So our stakes are continually rising. We had the very beginning where our stakes already started out a little high because we started with the moment where there's the stealing of the beacon and then, running for their lives, and then, I got the stuff with Simon Stockton, and then, we're trying to learn what's going on. So we started off kind of high, we kind of dropped a little lower, but now we're kind of really ramping up on a steady scale, kind of up to being like, okay, we're steadily going up to higher stakes and higher stakes. Raine is now surrounded by enemies. I'm not even saying like physically she's still surrounded by enemies, but she at one point had actually literally surrounded by enemies. But I just mean like the enemies keep adding up. First, we had Sarid, and we weren't sure about the Guardians. So that could have been a possible enemy. But we've kind of taken them off the plate mostly at this point. But then we ramp up to, Sathric and Sarid are together. Chagaru is also here. We had the Primaru that was visiting Tam, and we don't really know if Tam's an enemy or not. We had that moment. We have Aknus. We have again and again and again. We're kind of building and building more enemies, more combatants, and she is just surrounded on all sides at this point, which is raising our stakes because it's more easy to be caught, to be killed, to have problems when things are raising. I mean, even now, the enemy has Tiaras' grandmother. So they have a hostage to wine and dine her a little bit and say, hey, I don't know if wine and dine is the right terminology there. But hopefully you get what I'm trying to say, is that they're saying, hey, now we can make a deal. Now we can kind of force you and push you in the direction we want to go, which is to give them what they want. So we've raised another stake. So we've raised the stake of more enemies. And we understand our enemies, and we know where they're at, and they all know who she is. All of them. And then we have a hostage taken. So now there's even more pressure to get that hostage back, safe and sound, to not give the enemy what they want, to possibly even get what the enemy wants, and the fact that they don't even have the cigar yet. So they have to play with that third party element. So the stress and the stakes are just rising and rising. We have those crazy shadow creatures that we now know exist and now know how they work and might come at any moment from a nice Sarid as a gift, where you don't know what's coming and all of a sudden they just gobble you up and eat up all your life essence. So we've got these other third-party problems that could possibly show up. They're not expected, but we now know that they exist and that they could pop up at any moment. So we've got this rising. We have this note from Sarid that was pinned to the embassy door that was made of human skin. Joy. So we've got the more creepy element added. We've got so much of everything just pushing up the stress and pushing up the stakes and just being blown up into the stratosphere a little bit of how much Raine and her allies have to deal with and to maneuver around while the vultures are circling. So that's what I feel like is really the main point of these chapters, is to really raise the stakes, really fully flesh out what the problem is, really flesh out what Raine's role is and what she has as allies and who she has as enemies. So we've really done a lot of fleshing out of what the situation is and what she has to work toward, while really pushing up the stakes and making the stress extra real. It was real before and now it's double. So extra real, I guess. So I feel like this is a point where we're really setting up this plot and this climax already this early. We're really pushing ourselves, climbing up for the roller coaster where we're going up, 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 and we're still climbing high, and hopefully we'll eventually reach that peak where the climax is, and you just are going to be dropping down, and hoping that there will be a resolution at the other end. So let me know what you think. Do you feel the stress of it? Do you feel like we are progressing and that everything is kind of getting more and more complicated? Or how do you feel that these chapters are really setting up the plot and really setting up these characters for moving forward in this novel? Now, last but not least, I've got 3 nitty gritties. Hopefully you will enjoy discussing them with me. I would love to hear if you have anything else that you think should be pointed out specifically for these chapters. The first thing I want to point out is more just because I've read this before, read this a couple of times, and I have, as I mentioned, biases. I do have certain characters that I really enjoy. So I just wanted to point out Vigard to start off with, because he makes the best first impression, in my opinion, along with Mycheal, but in a different way. I really like how he's just like known as like the axe wielder, and he's a little bit fiery. He's kind of reminds me of like a Phelan type character where he's just happy to, beat some people up, and seems like an overall decent guy to start off with for our first impression. We barely hear about him. We barely know his name. We mostly know about him as being an axe wielder. But he has these kind of couple of moments in there where you're just like, that's a great first impression of him. And like, he might really get along with Phelan. So I'm looking forward to being able to talk more about him with you and for you to experience him more. But I just wanted to kind of point him out, give him a little bit of praise for his first impression and his beginning of this character in this book. Next, which is super interesting, is that Mycheal seems to be very, very almost positive to being Raine's dad. So she didn't think she had a dad that was alive, or any way, shape, or form of ever meeting him or knowing who he was. So this is going to be a big switch and a big change to Raine, is that now there is a father figure that might and or might not still be alive, and for her to be able to learn about him. And we've kind of set this up for this to be the case, that we're going to now possibly meet about him. We don't really know exactly what's wrong and why he's no longer guarding the rock and having the beacon himself. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how this changes Raine, to see how this changes the plot line, to see what this new addition of Raine having this father connected to the Cigarette is going to do. And last but not least, number 3 is now we have a set goal. We actually now know what direction to go. We've been kind of spinning and spinning with Raine, like, oh my gosh, what do we do? What is happening? What's this? What's that? How do we go about doing this? What information do we need? Who can we trust? Who can we not trust? We've kind of been spinning around and around and around. But now we have a set goal and a set direction to work with. She knows what she's got around her neck now. She knows what's at stake. She knows the people who are involved, what they want, why they want it. We know that they have a hostage. We know possibly where the Cigarette is. So we can now have a direction of like, okay, this is what her goal is, to remove this beacon from her, to try and separate herself from the Cigarette and not make it so everybody wants her, to get back Piaris's grandmother, and to hopefully make it so that way nobody gets like who would misuse the Cigarette is going to get it. And now we've kind of clearly seen that everything kind of compiled together into this little line here, and now we have a little direction and know what the next steps are for moving forward. So there we go. That is my thoughts on our next set of chapters for Raine Benares, Magic Lost Trouble Found. Hopefully you are enjoying it. I really, really like this series, and I'm really excited to be able to be sharing it with you and discussing it with you. So hopefully you are liking it just as much as me. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions as well. So let's do our last but not least item that we always do, and that is the trivia question. This past trivia question, I gave you a book cover that had the author and the name blanked out and asked what book was it. And it was Soul Music by Terry Pratchett. Congratulations to Christian Anarchy in Ankh-Morpork for getting it correct. Thanks to everyone who participated in it and giving a best try. I really appreciate everyone who plays with me. Hopefully you will join us in this new trivia question this week. If you would like to join and you'd like to check it out and you're not sure where to go, head over to the blog fantasyfictionfanatics.net. It will be on the right-hand side. You'll have to scroll down just a little bit and you'll be able to see it. If you're on mobile, you'll have to scroll almost all the way down, but then you will see the trivia question, the place to answer it and everything, and you'll see last week's answer and who got it correct. So if you miss it on the video, you'll know where to go to check to see if you got it the next week. While you're over on the blog, you're more than welcome to check out more content from me because I do post quite a few things over there like book reviews, book recommendations, different thoughts and opinions on fantasy, on writing, on reading. I do writing tips. I do personal things about my journey with fantasy and why I love it so much and other things like that. So if you want more content from me, go ahead and check out over there while you're answering the trivia question. Hopefully you will find some new things that you enjoy from my content. If you'd like to check out my social medias, you're more than welcome. I do update everything on there. I do post things, and hopefully you will follow me and be able to keep up on all the stuff that I am putting out. You can go to Twitter, which is @fantasyfiction1. You can also go to Facebook, which is /fantasyfiction1, to get all kinds of updates or to direct message me. I'd love to hear from you there if down below is not the best place for you, though down below is perfect if you would like to engage with me. Also, another great place to go that I highly recommend is the Fantasy Fiction Fanatics Discord. The link for that is down below for your invitation to join. We would love to have you. We've already got several people over there chatting and having a good time, talking about fantasy, talking about life, talking about other fun things, talking about books in general, all kinds of stuff, and we would love to have a conversation with you and to know about your joys of fantasy and reading and life. So you can also direct message me on there, so it's kind of the place that you can kind of get everything. You can get updates from me, discuss with other fantasy fanatics, and get a chance to direct message me if you need to. So hopefully you will join, and I guess I will see you guys soon. Bye.